Mr. James, get me out of here or I'll sew your pants off.
You ever open your Steam library and find a game you have no memory of buying? You don't remember playing it, but Steam says you have a not insignificant amount of time played, and for some godforsaken reason, a level 5 badge? That game for me is Nosferatu, The Wrath of Malachi. And today we're going to figure out what crime this game committed against my free time, and why I apparently let it happen.
On a misty October night in the Transylvanian mountains, you arrive to join your family and some of their closest friends at Castle Malachi, where your sister Rebecca is to be wed to the son of the wealthy Romanian count. God help us all.
I love this game's atmosphere. There's a massive grainy filter you can't remove, but honestly I don't mind it. In the courtyard, moonlight cuts through this dense fog. There's a constant whispering and wind chimes. Does a lot with very little. I would say the main menu theme is well done, but the main hook comes in way too late and it's really poor quality. There are also some pretty good songs as you're moving through the castle. It's a pretty typical 70s, early 80s kind of sound. It works really well with pianos, flutes, and other strings to build up tension until you encounter an enemy. Except for a couple times when it decided not to play. Graphically, yeah, there were better looking games even at the time. That's never really bothered me though. This game does a lot with just pure atmosphere alone. Most hallways are fairly well lit, and the art style kind of gives me this old Disney animation vibe. Especially in the graveyard. Something about the swirling sky, but I can't really put my finger on why. I think Nosferatu beats a lot of modern horror games just from its introduction alone, because it doesn't feel like it needs to stop every 5 seconds to teach you how to play. Unlike games like Resident Evil, Alien Isolation, and Amnesia: The Dark Descent. I like these games, but they all have these long, drawn-out intro sequences. You slowly learn how to crouch. You follow an NPC through a hallway where you can't go anywhere else. You stop every 10 seconds so they can turn around and gesture for you to keep following them, even though you're already right behind them. And then you get moments like this. Monsters right in front of you, screaming in your face, and then slowly chases you. How about characters that serve no purpose, like Axel in Alien Isolation?
Something's on the station with us and no one knows what it is. No one fucking knows.
2 minutes later.
There's a killer.
5 minutes later.
You know what's better than fucking spelling out there's a big scary? I get it. Maybe it's your first horror game. Maybe you need that onboarding. But for me, stuff like this just kills my immersion. Nosferatu doesn't do that. The intro cutscene tells you everything you need to know, and then it just drops you at the front gate and leaves you alone. There's this assumption that you already understand how video games work. And your introduction to the horror is a priest crashing through a window. It's not as cinematic, but it also doesn't waste my fucking time, especially on repeat playthroughs. I've got a little bit ahead of myself, so let's get back to basics on what Nosferatu actually is. You play as James Patterson, whom I'm now only realizing shares the same name as my mother's favorite author. You know, the guy who wrote Along Came a Morgan Freeman? Anyways, your goal is pretty simple. Find and rescue your family from Castle Malachi before the Count can sacrifice them. You have a set time limit for each family member, but from what I've played, the timer is very forgiving for most of your family. You'll find most of them randomly throughout your playthrough. They can spawn anywhere from the closest room to the castle's entrance, or neck deep in the middle of nowhere. Most of the time, you'll find your family along the main path the game expects you to take, but if you don't check side rooms, you're bound to pass someone. To get into the castle, you first have to find the East Wing key, which sometimes spawn in the first room you can enter, and other times, I have no fucking idea. Sometimes I can't find that key to save my life. When you do find your family, they almost always greet you with the most over-the-top British accent I've ever heard.
Hello, James. Glad to see you, good old chap. Let's get out of here.
It's fucking terrible, but for some reason, I absolutely love it. Other family members spawn in fixed locations, and these are my favorites. For example, Aunt Sophie will always spawn above the East Wing elevator, warning you there's a trap set for you further in. She's also guarded by 3 Frankensteins? I don't know what these are, to be honest. During your travels through the castle, you'll run into a decent variety of monsters. Lesser vampires, ghouls, dogs, zombies, and later on you even face gargoyles. Unfortunately, almost every single enemy is presented as a jump scare. At first it's fine, but as you keep playing, it slowly turns from scary introductions to bland enemy encounters. Especially later on when you get 3 jump scares in a single room. Game starts to feel less like horror and more haunted house ride. There is something special about opening a door and immediately annihilating the enemy jump scaring you on the other side, and having the music cut suddenly. It's almost like the game is acknowledging how anticlimactic it can be sometimes. Also, there's this one room that has a random jump scare soundbite, and I have no idea what's supposed to be signaling to the player. I should also mention your weapons. You start with a cane sword, which I can only describe as does the job. It's not particularly strong and you're basically trading blows with whatever enemy you're fighting. It's sort of like a faster version of the melee combat from Cry of Fear, only here no matter how much you stun your enemy or dodge attacks, you're probably going to take damage regardless of what you do. Fighting animations are not synced up with your hitbox, so sometimes you take damage even when it's clear you should be safe. And every time you take damage, the screen shakes violently. It's fine when you're fighting against one enemy, but when you're surrounded it gets very disorienting and plain annoying. This also happens every time you jump or fall off a ledge more than a couple feet, which is often because it includes your own jump height. Even worse, nearly every ramped surface, including stairs, is more slippery than ice. Some sections like the rooftops have you traversing over a deadly drop, and slipping like you're walking on oil doesn't help. You're also stuck with this annoying stamina bar for the whole game, and it's the most unnecessary addition to the combat loop. All it does is essentially keep you from running away from whatever enemies you're fighting, and make traveling through the castle a tad bit slower. It doesn't really contribute to the difficulty in any meaningful way, since you can still spam attacks even when you're exhausted. As you move through the castle, you can pick up flintlock pistols and rifles from dead Frankensteins, and as you save family members, they'll unlock trunks for you which often have new weapons. A revolver, a chalice, and your grandfather even brings a fucking World War I belt-fed machine gun.
They were worse than the old London thieves and roughnecks, those nasty vampires.
Which begs the question, what did my family expect to happen at this wedding? Ah yes, crumpets at dinners and pink mist for the after party. Obviously, the belt-fed machine gun is the best weapon in the game, but you don't get it until sort of late game. Until then, you're likely going to rely on the revolver, since you pick up a decent amount of ammo, and unlike the flintlock weapons, it reloads pretty quickly. I'll be honest though, I've seen some people complain about how long it takes to reload the flintlock weapons, and I don't really understand the complaint. From my experience, most of the time you're fighting 1 or 2 enemies at a time, and the flintlock only takes a second or 2 to reload between each shot. You should have plenty of time to deal with every enemy. Now when you're in a portal room, that's a different story. When you have 5 or 6 ghouls barreling down on you, the flintlock is far too slow. You also have access to a crucifix, which is only good against one enemy and lighting up your surroundings. I do like the wraiths a lot. Nearly every time they appear, I get goosebumps, but it is weird to have an enemy that serves no purpose other than to die in one hit from your most niche weapon. Once you do find family members, you simply walk them back to the safe house you start the game in front of. Depending on where you are, you either have to backtrack or unlock a door that'll loop back towards the entrance to whatever part of the castle you're in. And there lies the problem with most of the game. If you despise escort quests, do not play Nosferatu. If you despise backtracking, do not play Nosferatu. If you do not like procedurally generated maps, do not play Nosferatu, because that is, I'm not exaggerating, 90% of the game. Explore the castle, open every door you find, eventually locate a family member, escort them all the way back to the safe house, then walk all the way back to where you found them, and keep searching. It's more exciting than I'm making it sound, but I'd be lying out my ass if I said this was a 10 out of 10 gameplay loop. That's not to say escorting your family is bad, they are pretty funny to watch. Nearly every staircase they try to run down, they'll face plant at the top before descending, and it's funny every time. From my experience, they don't usually get stuck on geometry or fall off ledges, but they will walk in a straight ass line, so they might bite the dust if there's a gap between you and them. Also, your sister Angelica is terrifying. I don't know what it is about her run cycle, but the way she books it when she follows you is just kind of unnerving. Even though the game plays a lot like Quake or other retro shooters, at times it feels more like a fast-paced survival horror game. Even if you're not constantly reminded of it, there is a fair bit of ammo management. You can't just unload your guns on every single enemy you see, because eventually the game will throw something at you that actually matters and you won't have the health or ammo to deal with it. Like when a group of zombies started walking up the West Wing stairs while I was escorting someone down. I had to reload the game something like 6 times before I finally got through. Speaking of the West Wing, before you even get there, you end up on the roof of the East Wing, and that's where you meet Greg. Greg is one of the few family members who can actually fight, alongside Buster the dog, and your brother, I guess. I don't know, I forget he exists every playthrough. In combat, he's not particularly useful, but if you're low on ammo, he can technically help. If not, well, at least he looks like he's trying.
Show me the way!
He'll follow you anywhere until you reach the safe house, even the crypt, which is where you'll find the West Wing key, and don't lead Greg here. Your family will body block you and... Poor Greg. He was so young. Anyways, once you get the West Wing key, you're in for one of the developer's greatest pranks. This area has, by far, one of the hardest rescues I've seen in a game. From the moment you open the gates, you have about 18 minutes before Melissa dies. Which doesn't sound too bad, but she almost always spawns in the worst possible location. On the 4th floor of the West Wing, which needs a key that takes a long time to find. And when she dies... These death messages are cool, but I could do without the screeching. God, it sounds like a VHS is fucking melting while playing Merzbow. Despite all these flaws, there's something so endearing about this game. It's not long at all. If you're remembering to save and don't get too lost, I can see you finishing it in 2 to 3 hours. Which for a $5 game isn't bad. If you can tolerate a little bit of jank, there's a surprisingly fun game buried somewhere inside Castle Malachi. Is it a masterpiece? Not even fucking close. But it's still good. There are 2 endings to look forward to, but they essentially boil down to, did you save enough family members or not? I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'll just mention this small detail in the final cutscene. You get a good look at James and you can see him decked out in all of his weapons, and I really love this. It's not often you get to see a character with a large arsenal visually carrying everything at once. So I suppose there's nothing more to do than... There we go. I'm sure I'll play it again someday, probably when I forget it exists again, and I'm sure I'll have a grand time. Thanks for watching.